fully include people with developmental disabilities across the board, and to make sure that, that we are working together to develop trainers. I wanted to just start with saying that we came together because of a really horrible tragedy, and that was the death of Ethan Saylor in 2013. Because of his family's strength and wish to make something come from that that would protect people going forward, the Governor O'Malley at the time created the Commission for Effective Community Inclusion of People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. I think it's the longest name for a commission that I've heard of, but it had a big mission, and the commission met a little over a year, I believe, and landed on a set of recommendations that, while initially focused on training law enforcement to better engage with and respond to people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities, it really expanded, and it really became clear that, and I should say that the commission was a group of stakeholders, people who really brought a lot to the table in terms of information, experience, and opinions, recommendations. So the recommendations actually broadened to include trainings across the board when people are interacting and responding to people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities. And one of the biggest recommendations, always kept near the top of our list, was the recommendation, the strong recommendation that people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities needed to have meaningful roles as educators, as trainers, not just in the room, but meaningful roles as educators. And to get to that end, we needed to think about how to support and train which we asked the terminology that people preferred for us to use, and that was self-advocates. So we've had to figure out a way to support and train self-advocates so that they could fulfill that meaningful role as an educator. We've identified a number of partners over these last 6 years, and there's been a lot of law enforcement training underway. I need to and want to acknowledge Pathfinders for their training and partnering with us, as well as Loyola University has also partnered with us and provided training. And it's been incredibly impactful in a positive way for law enforcement in particular. But one of the things that the commission really recommended was looking beyond law enforcement. And we keep referring to them as circles, different circles within society, within, maybe it's education or other community services, transportation, hospitals, other community services that would do well to have training that is rich in how to, beyond inclusion, to really allow and provide the way for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to integrate and become whatever they want to become. And so we really need a group of self-advocates who are trained and ready to pick up whatever topic beyond law enforcement, certainly including, but even beyond. We've done a little bit of branching out in the area of emergency medical response, but even beyond those first responder type trainings. So what we're trying to do is expand on the efforts that have already occurred to try to provide training that will provide support and skills that can be to self-advocates that can be generalized across topics. And so we thought, what better way to start than to start this part of our journey here than to bring together this particular group of people, of which you all are included, to see if you're interested in participating in like a coalition to help us make sure we're bringing the right components in, we're considering the right people, and that we end up with a good plan for developing self-advocates as trainers. We have begun a project with Loyola University to establish a curriculum for that, for that training. So, and we'll hear more about curriculum and other things from other members of the committee. So that's those, trying to expand to those other circles and establish self-advocates as trainers is really going to be part of our focus today. That's really sort of the stage we are at now. And we will have opportunities for presentation to this group and then feedback from you. And we encourage your candid responses and thoughts as we get to those question areas. So since we're talking about self-advocates taking a lead, it's a good time for me to introduce the co-chair that I'm proud to work with, who actually carries the meetings way more than I do, and that's Erica Wheeler. She is a strong self-advocate, has provided training all over Maryland and I believe some out of state as well. And so Erica, if you would like to chime in now, I'll fade back and just want to again thank everyone and welcome you. Erica?
Thank you, Terry. Happy spring, everybody. I know this is not your typical meeting, but I'm glad that you're all here to join us and we can listen and learn from each other. That's what I say at every class that I start off with any kind of police training I've done. I say to them, I'm going to learn from you and you're going to learn from me and we're going to work together. And when Ethan's death happened, I knew that we needed to work together, the state of Maryland and other areas. We needed to come together because this was a situation that was very dramatic, especially in the world I come from. I have a disability and I was scared to think if something were to happen to me or one of my fellow friends or fellow members of my community, I knew that we needed to not let this happen again. And when they asked me to start from the very beginning with Tim Shriver, I wasn't going to say no. That's my philosophy. I never say no. And there are people who have come up to me and said, Erica, thank you. You're a great motivator. And all I can do is say to them, you're welcome. How can I help you? Because I'm the person with the disability. I'm the one who has the voice. I'm the one who carries the stories. And it's this training and meeting with Patti and working with these wonderful people from the very beginning. I've learned so much from them. It's helped me get through some tough situations. Even after some of the trainings I've done, Mom and I were walking out of our local library one day, and there was a police officer who started following us. And I was like, hold on, Mom, let me see what I can do here. And he rolled down the window and I said, officer, can I help you? You're Erica, aren't you? Yes, sir. And then he said, thank you very much. I just took the training. I saw you on the video. You've helped me. I said, you're welcome. That police officer, that really touched me because that's what I'm here for. And this is why folks who have the disabilities are the ones that lead this organization, the trainings. And let me tell you, Patti has been a great helper and support. Thanks to her, I'm not afraid to use my voice. And it was because of her and her son. Patti and I have gone to Florida together to receive an award where we got to talk about Ethan. And we've gone to do presentations in Virginia, and the folks there were deaf. And they came up to me with their phones saying, that was a wonderful presentation. I can learn from you. So let's take this journey together and see what happens. Thank you. Now I would like to do the roll call. Today, we have Secretary Carol Beatty from the Department of Disabilities. Is she here?
Secretary Beatty is not here today.
Okay. I'd like to introduce next Bernie Sanders. Is he here?
Hi, Erica. This is Tanya Ferguson standing in for Deputy Secretary Bernie Simons. So I'm Tanya Ferguson, Chief of Staff for the Developmental Disabilities Administration.
Thank you for joining us. It's nice to meet you.
You're welcome.
Next, I would like to introduce Beth from the Department of Autism.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Beth Benavides from the Hussman Institute for Autism. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Keith from the Department of Disabilities Council. Is he here? Okay. Next, Robert Wagner.
Unfortunately, Bob had to attend to a family emergency, but he's been a great partner. He is the training director of the Maryland Police and Correctional Training Commission. Also, Trooper First Class Catherine Folan is our Maryland State Police representative, and she is also unable to attend today.
Okay. Patti Saylor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Tom Curtis.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me, and I just enjoy it.
Thank you for all your help and support.
Anytime, lady.
Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Eastman. I work at the Department of Disabilities, and I staff the steering committee. So
before we move on to our next agenda item, where we'll be happy to have remarks from Patti Saylor. I was remiss, I did not acknowledge and should have acknowledged the incredible support of the Maryland Department of Disabilities in providing such a high degree of support to the steering committee and monitoring the grants and really supporting the effort. I also really want to just give a shout out to the committee members who are here and those who couldn't be. This is the work of a committee. It's not just a few people, and that's critical to say. But I do have to give a special shout out to Beth Benavides. She has just done an incredible amount of work, and you'll be hearing from her later today with specifics with regard to curriculum development. But Beth from the Hussman Institute for Autism, just want to say thank you so much. So if we could please have you, Patti, speak, we'd certainly welcome that.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Patti Saylor and Ethan's mom. Often some very, very nice things are said to me, and I appreciate that, but recognizing my claim to fame is that my son was killed, and I stood up for him, and I was his voice, and I will continue to stand up for him. And, you know, it doesn't stop. It's been 8 years and I'm sitting here, my palms are sweating, my voice is cracking, my heart is breaking. And I'm just very, very thankful for all of you to continue to have the energy and the passion to follow this mission and these goals. It was easier in the beginning. We were all fired up and we had tremendous passion coming from every direction to make changes. And, you know, over time, that energy and passion can fade away. And thanks to many of you who have been on this journey this whole time, this passion continues and the work continues. And I just can't thank you enough, because it is just very hard for me to muster up that energy and focus. Now it's much easier to put it in my rearview mirror and not experience the raw grief again. So I will always be the passion and the wind beneath your wings as you all do this work, and remind you that the risk still exists. In every facet of our community, the risk to people with developmental disabilities exists, whether it's transportation or law enforcement or the workplace. People still don't understand and give people with disabilities the respect and the credit that they're due. And I hope that through the work that we continue to do, mostly what you all do, we will continue to break down that barrier. And we will look at Tim's circles and we'll tackle each one of those areas in our community that need this work. And it'll be led by self-advocates with those of us that support them. I guess that's really all I have to say to you is thank you. And looking at my beautiful children and missing Ethan, I just want to thank you and just let's keep doing it. Let's move forward. It's a big, big job, and we're chipping away at it little by little. But we'll get there. We'll get there. And I'm sure that lives have been saved in these past 6 years. We don't hear all the stories, but I do believe we've heard some where law enforcement has felt prepared and satisfied with how they've done things, and people with disabilities' lives, or at least their trauma, has been spared because of the trainings that have been done by many of you that are on this call. So thanks a lot. I look forward to the rest of our time here.
Thank you, Patti. I can't follow that, but I will say that I am so overwhelmed and impressed with the level of advocacy you've been able to achieve during your grief, because it's really hard to focus on anything of this magnitude in the light of such a loss. So we are so grateful, and I'm so grateful and so incredibly moved to be a part of this and to try to the best of my ability at the state level to implement the vision that you had, and trying to make something really meaningful and impactful out of your personal tragedy. So having said that, thank you. I want to, I guess, kind of create a framework for what we hope to address today. We've got a lot of different partners throughout the state, representing a lot of different sectors who have some involvement or knowledge of the Alliance and the corresponding steering committee, but we wanted to provide an overview of the formation, get everybody on the same page. We want to talk about the progress that we've made as a steering committee, as well as the Alliance partners up until this point. And we really want to introduce a vision for a coalition comprised of community partners such as yourself and self-advocates for the coming year. Solicit your feedback on what you want this coalition to look like, and hopefully obtain your buy-in and support. So Terry kind of alluded to this in the beginning. Out of tragedy came immense advocacy. And if there's anything I know about the DD network and community, having been working in it for the past 13 years, is advocacy really moves mountains. And so with that advocacy, there was the Governor Martin O'Malley's executive order establishing the Commission for Effective Community Inclusion of Individuals with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, under the leadership of Tim Schreiber from Special Olympics International. They issued reports across their 1.5 year meeting with recommendations for what they wanted a self-advocate program, a training program for self-advocates to look like, as well as a training curriculum that they wanted law enforcement to have. So there was a lot of regulatory action done that collaborated with law enforcement entities, developing a list of entry-level training objectives to ensure that there was more consistency of training across the state. And then also the legislative piece, which established the Ethan Saylor Alliance for Self-Advocates as Educators. The Saylor Alliance for Self-Advocates as Educators was a landmark bill that was passed by current Governor Hogan and signed into law in 2015. And it really just established a framework for preparing and supporting self-advocates to co-lead trainings. The central premise being is nothing about us without us. You cannot have people, you can't have a training program for law enforcement or any first responder or entity on how to interact with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities without people with IDD in the central role, serving alongside law enforcement trainers. So the Saylor Alliance is charged with preparing, supporting, and compensating self-advocates to participate as co-leaders in local law enforcement and other public entity trainings. Our department's role, we previously served as a commission member, and this alliance was established within our department. Secretary Beatty has the authority on membership. We staff a steering committee, and with guidance from the steering committee, we develop a scope of work for the Saylor Alliance, and we also monitor the Alliance contract. Some activities we've had to date, the steering committee has been meeting consistently, either monthly or every 2 months, to provide, to receive updates from the Alliance on activities of the project, as well as provide feedback and suggestions for any changes that need to be made. We continue to work towards achieving the original vision and using, maximizing our limited resources to really move the needle towards this vision of having this center for self-advocates as educators, however that might look like. Since our formation, we've contracted with 3 entities, and that has included or impacted 13 community partners throughout the state. Beth's going to talk a little bit more about this, but we've revised the model IDDD curriculum, which also includes the role-playing scenarios for self-advocates that Loyola has been instrumental in developing. We've conducted outreach events and respond to inquiries from the public, and that's included 2 Mid-Atlantic ADA conferences to date. We've had senators contact us requesting information and guidance onto how we can incorporate what we've learned into their legislation. So we've really had a national reach for the work that Maryland's been doing. I want to turn it over to Andy Culp, who's going to talk a little bit about the mini grants that we've funded for the ARC of Maryland.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Culp with the ARC Maryland, and I'm just going to give a brief overview of this project that was in alignment with the goals of the Alliance. As the slide says, a grant was given to the ARC Maryland to have a competitive process to distribute to community organizations supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to be the lead trainers or ambassadors of the message, to reduce stigma, increase safety, and inspire relationships by serving as a catalyst for those relationships of mutual support and acceptance in the state. Through that process, we were able to provide grants to 8 organizations from boundary to boundary, and they covered 11 counties in Baltimore City. Some of the projects were related to reaching out to first responders. So there was an improv night that one of the organizations did to bring people together with a foundation of humor, and through that activity, they developed relationships. Pathfinders for Autism created these little rings with picture communication symbols that officers could use when they came upon somebody who didn't use words to communicate, so that could facilitate effective communication and reduce anxiety. So there was just the whole gamut of different activities that came out of this opportunity, and we're really very pleased with the outcomes for Maryland. Did you want me to touch on anything else, Jennifer, and go any more into detail on any of the projects?
No, I think that's great. I'd love to have an opportunity to kind of showcase that at a later date, but I think that overview was great. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Another important thing to mention is the collaboration and support we've gotten in working with the Maryland Police and Correctional Training Commissions. Now, this is the entity in the state of Maryland that's responsible for making recommendations and ensuring that training is standardized across the state as it pertains to law enforcement. And what I think has been a really great testament to their buy-in and to their adoption is their incorporation of the training objectives that the commission proposed to be included, so that all law enforcement training on how to interact with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, though there is no one consistent curriculum across the state that needs to be used, all curriculum used needs to adhere to these training objectives, and they're very specific and they're very comprehensive. So that was effective January 1st, 2015. It's been incorporated into our Code of Maryland Regulations, COMAR, and it also includes an in-service training requirement every 3 years to ensure that continued development of our officers. It also makes the recommendation that self-advocates should be included in trainings as a best practice. This is not going to be mandated, at least at this point in time, because we don't have a pool of self-advocates, so we don't want to put the cart before the horse. But it is, I think, great that they did come out and say it is a best practice to include self-advocates in trainings. Bob Wagner's been a really wonderful, dedicated partner on the steering committee. We're happy to work with him. And they've been supportive of the revised model IDDD curriculum that I'm going to have Beth talk about.
Great. So the Maryland's curriculum and IDDD training for law enforcement has been looked to by many across the country, and the curriculum was developed quickly with a great collaboration of individuals, and it was rolled out. And so over the years, as with any training, we've incorporated feedback from others and decided to revise the training a little bit so that it flowed better and so that it could incorporate more training scenarios and role-playing opportunities for people with disabilities to participate. So the curriculum now has 7 clear sections. There are videos included from incidents that have happened across the country between individuals with disabilities and law enforcement, both some, concerning situations, and then others that have gone really well that we've included in there. So the sections are, as listed here, communication, crisis and de-escalation, definitions and characteristics of disabilities, ADA compliance and accommodations, and a couple others. It incorporates role-playing scenarios. These were developed by Loyola University. And then there's also a debrief section. So after the role play is done, there's a debrief section for the officers and for the self-advocates. So they can talk about what was portrayed and what was happening, what was done well, what could be improved upon. This revised curriculum has taken quite a while to come to fruition, but with the help of a DD Council grant, we are actually putting this curriculum in a binder for every law enforcement agency with a flash drive that will have the PowerPoint in many different formats with all these videos so that it will work on their various systems to make it as easy as possible for their training directors to deliver this curriculum. And so this work hopefully will be disseminated, these binders will hopefully be disseminated this summer to all of the, Jennifer can talk about that timeline, but that's our goal, and to get this complete packet of materials to the training directors. So it's been great work. And for everyone that has given us feedback on the curriculum, that has provided input, that has looked at the revised curriculum, thank you so much for all of the incredible input. Bob Wagner has been a tremendous partner at MPCTC and helping us bring this across the finish line.
Thanks, Beth. So now I want to introduce Lisa Shainbrodt and Leah Saul from Loyola University, Maryland, who have been working with the Department of Disabilities in implementing their Leading Forward program. So they'll talk a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yes, we had, first it was actually learning to lead and now it's leading forward. So we've been partnering The idea behind this and with this diagram that you can see here is it's law enforcement and EMS partnering with academics and advocates working together to locally support self-advocate educators. So we work with community-based advocacy organizations. Who we've been working with right now mostly is Best Buddies and Special Olympics, and then also drawing our self-advocate educators from there and working with the law enforcement and EMS departments that have been identified through MDOD as our partners. Our self-advocate educators, we have a job description and qualifications for them that we go over with each person that we select. Let me just say first, that in terms of screening and assessment, we do look at communication skills, sensory processing skills, role-playing skills. If they've had any kind of work or background, which believe it or not, most of our self-advocate educators do in either theater or doing some sort of drama or something over the years. And we also have a job interview that goes along with that has scenario-based questions to be able to, again, see whether or not they are good candidates for our training. In addition, one of the things that's very important for us is that our self-advocate educators really understand the difference between what is real and what is not, so that when they are interacting in these situations, that they understand that they are acting. Okay, so they're actors with lived experience as people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that offer that perspective that way. In terms of the job description, they know and are told, and we have two of our lovely self-advocate educators here with us today, Adam Hayes, who's joined us recently, and Patrick Cheney, who's been with us since the very beginning. And they know that we go over these descriptions with them so that they understand what their role is and that they are part of a larger project in terms of being available to be able to go out to police trainings or EMS, whichever one that they're called upon to do. They are paid through the grant that we have with MDOD. We have very generous compensation for them. So it's $15 per hour. And this also encompasses their transportation. And I sorry said about that. Let's see. We did find that when we were originally developing the scenarios, we actually developed 5 for police. We had 3 that were approved by the commission to use, and those are the 3 that are in. And we're also working with EMS now. We've had 1 that we were working with and have developed an additional 2. But in order to really help or to understand that this is a role-playing and live situation with whoever is attending the training that day, we knew that we could not develop just a script that our self-advocate educators would use. So they are trained using improvisation and do quite a good job with that. In fact, we really hone in on the fact that we want them to be able to show the unexpected behaviors more than what is expected, because we know that they are very good citizens and that they would never break the law or do the things that they would do, but that we want them to really try to have a lot of emotion in their role play and things that they do, so that law enforcement and EMS have to interact with them longer. And also, I want to say in our role play scenarios, we also do not include, except in one of them that involves a family situation, we don't involve anybody who is not disabled in the situation, because that was something, again, that the commission really came through about, and we agree that otherwise the people that if law enforcement or EMS are on site, the first person they're going to try to go to is somebody who may not have the disability. And the whole point is that they learn better communication skills and strategies, particularly with people in crisis situations. So as part of our training, as I said, we use improv. So we do warm-up activities. So we're using these are things that come from, well-known improvisation activities. So they pretend they're walking through the door, they introduce themselves. We do a lot of emotions. And I know that we've really been working on a lot of more complex emotions these days. And that helps them to really be able to understand the gamut and how that really impacts or is part of the situation. So with our EMS, and Adam's been part of our EMS most recently, we really look at things like pained. I've got my whole little list of things right here: pained, or humiliated, or appalled, or shaken. And we talk about how these kinds of things would then interact and play into a particular situation, why that might be a vocabulary word or an emotion that they might do. Then we do the role play scenarios. These are have been modeled by instructors and implemented by the self-advocate educators. We've been very fortunate over our period of time that we've also been able to have our EMS partners that we've been, directly responding to, and also law enforcement in Baltimore City and Howard County were very helpful in coming over on our dress rehearsals to really kind of be part of that and give us feedback, and also to allow our self-advocate educators to be able to interact with somebody in that particular role without Leah and I actually pretending that we're in that, because we are neither law enforcement nor an EMS. We then do a self and team critique using NED cards, which involve narration, emotion, and detail. So narration is the storyline. So how well does the storyline flow? Was there enough emotion? And actually with detail, we want them to have not as much detail. So it's an unexpected kind of thing, so that, again, law enforcement and EMS have to draw those out. And our participants, all our self-advocate educators, critique each other, and they do so in a very constructive way. And it really works very well. And then there is some homework that was given at the time we started that was explicit to be able to help out with continuing on with the kinds of things that we're supposed to do. Leah, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So hi guys, happy to be here. In our first year of our contract, we really worked on developing the lead curriculum, working through identifying and research what's been done in the past, not only with people with IDD, but with similar populations. And then thinking about, particularly from the communication research, how can we be authentic, both in authentically developing relationships between self-advocates as well as our trainees, but also authentic opportunities to practice. So if the goal of this training is that providers, any first responders, would learn about these techniques, that they need to have opportunities to authentically practice them in real life and get feedback. We know that adults don't actually incorporate changes into their practice unless they have an opportunity to practice it in a low stakes situation. And so that's what we really try to do with the development of our lead curriculum, is provide those opportunities. We initially trained 10 self-advocate educators, developed the 3 scenarios that you guys have already heard about. And we initially conducted 5 law enforcement trainings with Prince George Public Safety and Security Institute. Having Percy Alston as our partner has been invaluable, particularly initially in learning about the authenticity of what we're asking self-advocates as well as cadets and trainees to do, and just been a really meaningful partner that way. We have collected a lot of data on our both trainees, law enforcement trainees, as well as the self-advocates. And ultimately what we were able to establish with this first contract is that by incorporating the lead curriculum into particularly academy training and in-service training, we are able to see an actual statistical impact, that it has made a difference in how police officers and recruits are able to think about their interactions with people with disabilities, which is ultimately our goal. So in our second contract, we also were able to train 10 more self-advocate educators. We have completed 6 entry-level trainings with Baltimore City PD. So we were really excited to work very closely with them. As many on this call know, they're under consent decree with the DOJ. And so we were able to work with them to ensure that the curriculum, the lead curriculum of self-advocates serving in the role of trainers and incorporating role play was able to be incorporated into Baltimore City PD training for cadets. We have also completed 11 trainings with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. We've trained across, I guess, the 2 contracts, hundreds of both police and EMS at this point. We have held 1 additional training with Prince George Public Safety and Security Institute, and we're going to be holding 1 more in the end of May, actually, which will complete our contract. What's been really interesting about this year is, of course, or this contract is, it is incorporated, the COVID pandemic. And what's been really exciting, we think, is moving all of these trainings that we had planned to a completely online format. So as such, all of the trainees and all of the self-advocate educators or participating live, synchronous on Zoom. We've had to shift how the self-advocate educators do their job. If any of you need any assistance with how to do video role play or conduct a video meeting, the self-advocate educators have been amazing and are absolute experts. Lisa and I learn from them every day. Adam on this call is an expert at video editing, just in case anybody need that help. And ultimately, what we've been excited to see is that despite the pandemic, with so many things being shut down, we know that this training need still exists. Certainly first responders are still doing their job in the middle of a pandemic and thinking about how to continue to move this training forward despite all of its challenges has been really interesting and creative. And I think we've seen some affordances of it, as a matter of fact, not the least of which is that transportation, working with people with disabilities and without, is always a challenge in this area. And that has been mitigated by the ability to do this training asynchronously. So that's been really exciting.
You may take this one, Leah.
Absolutely.
Okay. We have also worked on additional efforts to expand our training. Leah and I actually, not through Loyola, applied through the Horizon Foundation, the Changemaker competition. This was I guess we're going on 2 years, believe it or not, with this one where we put in to be able to expand the program to EMS to working in Howard County because they did not have a curriculum that existed neither for the training of individuals in terms of content curriculum, but also for role play. So to date, we did win one of the competitions. It was quite interesting. It was very much like being on Shark Tank. We had to do a 1-minute video and then to be as part of the selection process. And then once we were actually selected as one of the final 7, you had to do a 5-minute presentation. I think it was 5-minute presentation to the entire group. And we were chosen as one of the 4 prizes in that point in time. So we have been working with Howard County. Fortunately, we were able to get 2 trainings off before COVID hit. And then they actually like to do this because this was with their new first responders. They wanted it to be in person. So we are now going to be delivering our last one to them this coming Friday in person. And now we're also working with the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council. We had a grant to be able to work with them. And now we are, again, expanding our EMS to working with developing a curriculum that's entirely online because, again, because of COVID, particularly with continuing education, the first responders really want to continue to have just their continuing education online. And so Leah has worked very hard with our people at Loyola to develop a curriculum that is asynchronous so that they will so that whoever is engaged with that will interact with a really, really interactive, it's fantastic. Curriculum that includes case studies, it has video, it has a lot of other things. It's very interactive, but then the synchronous pieces that our self-advocate educators then again come online and are able to interact with EMS in role play situations and be able to take the skills that they've learned and heard about in that asynchronous portion and do those in the synchronous portion. And we did just have an EMS training, I think it was last week, and we were able to sort of pilot this to be able to go forward, getting ready to roll the whole thing out in May at our next training to be able to do this. But we were able to take 2 of our self-advocate educators. Adam was one of those, and participated twice in the various rooms. I just lost my train of thought, but anyway, in the breakout rooms, that's what I'm trying to get, breakout rooms, and to be able to roll those role plays twice and to do the debriefing, and it really made a big difference overall that way. So we're very excited about the additional efforts that we've been able to work with that way. And then, yeah, finally, Patrick and Elena are working on their final thing for the other grant. We are going to be presenting to the steering committee. They are going to be the co-trainers actually delivering the curriculum that Beth was talking about, and in May to the steering committee so that they can see how they are, because Patrick and Elena have been working very hard on that. I think that's it.
Thank you so much. So we've kind of embarked on a lot of projects, and I think we've moved the needle significantly, and we've learned a lot in what we've in who we've worked with and some of the activities we've engaged in. What we know is that many stakeholders are participating in these activities throughout the state, oftentimes through grassroots and local efforts outside of the Alliance project, outside of what the steering committee is even aware of. So we know that we can learn from each other's experiences. Our goal is really to streamline efforts and not be duplicative. And because, as we all know, funding is limited, we really need to leverage our resources if we want to achieve the vision that the commission initially had for a center for self-advocates as trainers. So that kind of is what brings us to convening this meeting here today. So our vision is a group of diverse stakeholders who can contribute their subject matter expertise and experience to develop a model curriculum that supports and prepares self-advocates in these training roles. So outside of the law enforcement training that we're trying to promote and get adopted by training directors throughout the state, we're really looking at what is the best means to standardize a way of training and supporting self-advocates to serve in these leadership and training roles. And we want this coalition to really be the entity that takes that on. And most importantly, and what I think is so exciting and so mission critical, is that the self-advocates will serve meaningful roles in the development of this curriculum and in all activities of the project, including meeting planning and logistics, and be compensated for their time. This curriculum that we want as a product from the coalition is going to be in addition to the efforts that have already been made and the progress made by Loyola University of Maryland. We love this role play idea. We want that incorporated into, in addition to whatever curriculum that gets developed, because we want self-advocates to participate in any means that they see fit. And this provides another opportunity for them to do so. So when we think about this curriculum, we imagine it can be expanded and replicated across post-secondary institutions or community-based organizations supporting people with IDDD, eventually maybe a development of a training certification, establish a roster of people with disabilities across the state who can serve in these various training roles, and ultimately an employment opportunity for people with disabilities. And so when we think about what, if any, base curriculum exists to train and support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, we met with some partners to try to brainstorm what is available, will it work, and what we've considered and want to start as a framework is this leadership development that Special Olympics Maryland has worked on pretty extensively over the past year and have had experience and success in even providing this training virtually. So with that, I want to introduce Jason Shrimmel from Special Olympics Maryland to talk about, showing the way, introduction to athlete leadership.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. I really appreciate it, and really appreciate being here today. So you may have a perception of Special Olympics, and it may be about sports and the 27 sports that we do around the state, but it may not be about athlete leadership. So I just wanted to kind of give you a basic introduction on our athlete leadership program. So we offer over 60 courses in athlete leadership. I will not list them all here, but they are numerous. But I just want to go over the guiding principles. Number one, that education and awareness building is through a unified leadership approach. So it is partnering with individuals in the community, working together through education and awareness, not people speaking for individuals, but working together to support individuals in the education and awareness process. We use the term athletes, obviously, because we're Special Olympics, but we believe athletes have a choice in how and where they lead in Special Olympics. It is not Special Olympics' job to tell an athlete that they should be a coach or they should be interested in being on our board of directors. Athletes tell us where they want to participate and lead, and we find the spot for them. Speaking of finding a spot, it's critically important that we create meaningful roles, positions of influence and leadership throughout our organization, generally across the board. Putting athletes in positions for the sake of filling positions is not what we're interested in. It doesn't benefit personal growth, and it doesn't benefit the organization as well. So a little bit more on education and awareness building. The unified leadership approach, it just educates leaders of all abilities to value and learn from each other, to create environments where people with IDDD to succeed in meaningful roles and jobs. So we're connecting our athletes with individuals in the community to work together to push forward. So, the definition of unified leadership, for if you're not aware of it, is building from sport, which is our base. Unified leadership teaches leaders of all abilities to value and learn from each other, to inspire change, to create environments where people with IDD succeed in meaningful jobs and roles. And again, the core of this, athletes have a choice in how and where they want to lead within Special Olympics. They need to be trained in the knowledge and skills if they don't come to the table with them. And that's why we provide that large breadth of different courses so that they can be successful in whatever they choose. And again, reiterating the importance of the meaningful position of influence and leadership. Nothing changes if in our organization, or nothing moves forward if our athletes aren't in these meaningful positions of influence and leadership, and that current leadership and committees are open and trained to listen to athletes who want to help set policy and direction for future programming. This is just a quick slide just to tell you that we don't just dabble in it. Leadership has been around for a number of years, a real push at Special Olympics Maryland in the last 5 years. But we have athletes involved as I guess simply as, involved in our opening ceremonies, doing a Pledge of Allegiance, being active photographers, being law enforcement ambassadors, athletes who run their own podcast or Zoomcast, who are on board of directors, just to name a few. But I'll tell you the stats in a second, but that's just a sampling of roles that we have for athlete leaders. There is a more formal process. Athletes are allowed to attend any training they want, but if athletes wish to move on and kind of formalize their certification, we offer an introduction to athlete leadership, which is your top bar, and an understanding leadership. So these are very basic courses on leadership and what's expected, with some practice exercises. There's advanced modules. You can see the 5 in the middle. And that would become, athletes could become certified athlete leaders. And then underneath, there are roles such as sports leaders, event coordinators, representatives, and then there's personal and professional development, and that has kind of dabbling into job skills, professional skills, some preparation. We think there is some kind of crossover for leadership into those professional and personal skills. And that's kind of the basics of it. I did want to share, we've had some success in the last year in 2020. We obviously, like many people, went to virtual training. And I just want to share that we've had over 53 trainings since March last year. We've trained 575 athletes virtually. 390 of them are unique. And this kind of culminated most recently in having over 70 athletes do a weekend training in early March, multi-course training that we were grateful to have to Andy to come on and teach us a little bit about advocacy with medical professionals, but culminated in that weekend. We're continuing to plan to do this. We have to plan this way because currently there's no other way, but there are, as Leah and Lisa said, there are certain real benefits to training virtually that I think will continue regardless of the status of going back in person or not. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jason. Before I give the opportunity for our self-advocates to address the group about their experience in leadership, I wanted to cycle back to the slide that has the logos of the invited participants. I figured it's a good opportunity to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves so we know who's at the table, and then we can kind of engage in discussion following that. Amy? Maybe we lost Amy. Andy?
Yeah, hi. I'm Andy Culp with the ARC Maryland, and I'm happy to be here.
Trish and Shelley?
Hi, I'm Trish Kane, and Shelley's behind me. We're with Pathfinders for Autism, and thank you for allowing us to be at your meeting today.
Natalie?
Natalie Donor, the ARC of Howard County.
Amber?
Morning, everyone. Amber Yates with Best Buddies.
Katie?
Hi, Katie Collins-Zerke with Accessible Resources for Independence.
Ken and Tammy?
Hello, I am Ken Capone. I am the Director of People on the Go. It's nice to see everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tammy Goldsmith. I'm the Program Coordinator for People on the Go.
I see you now, Amy.
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute or find the little thing. I totally apologize. I'm Amy Giagotti from the University of Maryland Center for Transition and Career Innovation.
Is Joanna with us?
I am Joanna Pearson. I'm with the ARC of Frederick County.
Maureen?
Hi, I'm Maureen Vanstone. I am the Director of the Maryland Center for Developmental Disabilities at Kennedy Krieger Institute and the Director of Project HEAL, Health, Education, Advocacy, and Law. Good morning to everyone.
Greg?
Yeah, hi, I'm Greg Nolman from Towson University, Assistant Professor in our Department of Special Education.
And is Zoja here? Okay.
Hi, I'm Zosha. I'm from the Hudson Center at Towson University. I had to get myself off mute. It takes a few steps because I'm on a mobile device. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And I know everybody else who spoke. So we got Loyola at Special Olympics. And did I miss anybody from an organization before I allow self-advocates and family members to introduce themselves? All right.
Arlen Brooks from the ARC Maryland.
Well, thanks, Arlen.
Okay.
Okay, we've got Dominique.
Hello to all. I am Dominique Parker, and in 2015, I graduated from Long Reach High School in Columbia, Maryland. That is when my advocacy work started. I learned at Long Reach the importance of speaking up for myself and others. And I'm also part of the ARC of Howard County's Partners and Policy Program. Thank you.
Thanks, Dominique. Adam?
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Hayes from Frederick, Maryland. I am as a self-advocate educator with the EMS. It's been a really cool experience. And I also am work with Jason in Special Olympics, Maryland.
Thank you. Patrick.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick Cheney. I'm 23. I will be going on 24 this Sunday. I have high-functioning autism. I've been a part of Best Buddies Maryland's ambassador program since 2017, and I've been a self-advocate educator for the Patti Saylor Alliance since launch.
Thanks, Patrick. And Aaron.
Okay, go ahead.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I did pretty good.
Can you introduce yourself?
You know my name is Aaron.
Aaron McLaughlin. Aaron McLaughlin.
Yeah, but a long time ago I played T-ball.
Okay, this is Aaron's first introduction to this. She's been out of the self-advocacy game for a while now, just for various, life got in the way. But this is new. This is our first exposure. We were involved in the Patti Saylor Alliance during the commission days, and this is actually just getting back to it. I'm really encouraged by what we've heard, and I look forward. We look forward. Aaron looks forward to participating maybe in the self-advocacy educators, right?
I told them from the come about the T-ball.
Yeah, so you can tell them about the T-ball later, but anyway, thanks for allowing us, inviting us to this.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And Mr. and Mrs. Myers?
Hi, yeah, we're just excited to be here. We're committed parents of a son who had various intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we've been working with Laurel University, and we've been thrilled with that experience as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. Great. So I just wanted to I guess we could start our discussion. But the next steps after this is the department needs to develop a scope of work for what this coalition is going to look like and determine a timeline for the project. We need to identify partners and confirm commitment. Those who are here because of you know, your experience, your involvement in the past, your interest in the future, and we know that this list is an exhaustive one. So if there are people or organizations that we want to bring to the table, please, you know, I want to have open dialogue and make sure that we do invite the right people, address any questions and concerns from stakeholders. And one of the things that I know that, you know, our department, which reads as me, has been remiss in this project is disseminating information on the project activities to the public. So we're updating our webpage on the Saylor project to make sure that all meeting minutes and reports are posted and accessible, and just to make sure that we are communicating with the community as to what we're doing. So I also want to thank the additional partners who are either involved in the trainings or have been involved in the steering committee. So Disability Rights Maryland, Department of Health's Developmental Disabilities Administration, the Maryland State Police, the Baltimore City Police Department, the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council, the Maryland Police and Correctional Training Commission, Hussman Institute for Autism, Montgomery County's Fire and Rescue, and Prince George's Public Safety and Security Institute, which was the first police partner, and he's been really great. So I think our approach has been to find people and entities interested in getting involved, particularly from a law enforcement and first responder perspective, and kind of impose our project on them. And they've been really great, and we wouldn't have made the progress if it weren't for their willingness. So I want to give the opportunity for the self-advocates to maybe talk about their leadership experience. You know, what has your experience been as a leader? How did you become a leader? Have you participated in any trainings, and have you conducted any trainings?
Just a quick question before we go over these particular questions you wanted to go over. Is there any order? Like, are you going to ask anybody any specific questions, or are we just free to share our thoughts as we come and go as we please?
The latter, pretty much that.
Okay. Care if I start off?
Go ahead.
Okay. My experience as a leader has been, in a word, eye-opening. It's been kind of fascinating to see this dual-edged learning experience, because not only do the people who have disabilities get to learn these skills, the skills of being able to convey emotions at a moment's notice or communicate relatively effectively under those emotions, but also to see people in the police force and first responders get to exercise patience and compassion, which is something that I think the whole program revolves around teaching. Because let's be real here, patience and compassion are something that we need. It's just nice to be a part of something that cultivates that important part of our lives. And it's just great to see so many different people taking something away from this. It feels like I'm actually making an impact on people's lives.
Thanks, Patrick. That's great. Adam, did you want to address anything?
Yeah. So I became my experience as a self-advocate educator, it's been really interesting to learn that the emotions that I might use to help the EMS to learn how to interact with people with intellectual disabilities. When I started, I figured that I had some experience just already being in the hospital so much, but I kind of learned that I had to do my type of emotions in a different way to help the EMS learn and understand, because we want them to understand how to interact with people with intellectual disabilities. And I just that this has been a really cool experience, and not just for me, but learning to help others understand how to interact with us better too. So I found that really neat.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
What about you, Dominique? Did you want to address the group about your experience?
Sure. I have had a lot of experience. I have in high school. I was a mentor to people with social disabilities. And when I graduated from high school, I started a social support group called CBB, and the acronym stands for Community Building Blocks. And that helps the IDD/DD community. And we have had lots of fun doing different social activities. Like we went to the park, and now since COVID, we've had virtual meetings where we have had different experiences. We made a vision board. We had a essential oil meeting, a self-care advocacy meeting, and we've done lots of different activities. I want to thank Partners in Policy for helping me gain my advocacy skills and knowledge. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dominique.
Mm-hmm.
Erin, did you want to address anything? I know that you participated in a video that is now part of the law enforcement training.
Remember the video you did for the law enforcement training?
Yeah, I was trying to wear my headphones.
She remembers wearing the headphones. She did a pretty good job. She also, at a couple of the commission meetings that we attended, she was able to speak to the commission members, and she testified for the for the Rosa's law. It was, I forget where it was, before the Maryland State Legislature, And then you remember going to Rose's Law at the White House?
Mm-hmm.
Say something about that.
Yeah, it was great. I just be there.
That's a story in itself, where we attended with the Marcelino family at in the green room, and Aaron almost took over the presidential podium. So that's a separate story, though.
That's great. What a wonderful opportunity. We've there've definitely been a lot of small but significant changes the past several years. So
yeah, she could really benefit from the training. She needs to get back on the self-advocacy horse, and she's been dealing for the past couple of years with transition from school to adult services, and that's been overwhelming for all of us. But this training would be really good for her. So I'm encouraged and hope she can get involved in that.
That's great. Thanks for joining us. So I guess I wanted to bring it to the larger group now. We shared a lot of information and posed a lot of questions. And so I want to just give the floor to the other attendees.
Jennifer, this is Trish at Pathfinders. Shelley and I just wanted to, on behalf of our self-advocates, comment a little bit about the self-advocates on their behalf, if that's okay.
Yes, please. Yes.
So, Shelley, you want to talk about
So Josh Smith asked me to if I could speak up for him because he's working his job at Martin's Food today, so he couldn't hear. He wanted to attend, and he'd like to attend future meetings if he's invited.
Tuesdays
right?
and Thursdays.
If they're on Tuesdays or Thursdays, Josh would like to attend. Josh has been teaching with us for 6 years now. And he's taught a couple hundred law enforcement and other first responder classes with us. And I'll tell you, it's been phenomenal watching the changes. So when Josh first started teaching with us, he started by talking about his own story. And now Josh teaches material through the entire class. And he's just an absolute natural now. The way he reads a room, the way he absolutely just kind of takes command of the room, and
he jokes, and
he jokes, he interjects with things. It's phenomenal. Right. He's just amazing, and he loves this job. And he'll tell you it's taken time to get him to this point where he's just such a natural at it.
Right, absolutely. And his father, helping Josh stay on his notes, constructed this particular kind of box. It sort of like holds his notes up for him. I mean, it's just a very creative and the whole process of getting him to be comfortable where he is. And these classes could be 3 hours, 4 hours. He's there.
Well, we just taught for the state police 2 weeks ago, and that was an 8-hour class.
And he was there.
And Josh, right, teaching through the whole thing.
Right. So we just wanted you to hear from him because he did want to be here today, and we wanted to let you know about that. Just so you know, we also have about 5 other self-advocates that have been training with us since 2015, and they all have their stories and their participation and all. But just, on their behalf, I'd like to mention them because they've done great work with us, and we'd like you to know it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So we'll be sure that coalition meetings occur on Tuesdays or Thursdays to accommodate him. And what you shared is exactly why we want to have a coalition formed, because there have been a lot of lessons learned as you've gone with incorporating self-advocates in your trainings, and that really needs to be shared and adopted as a best practice, because it is important to note that any change to like a proficiency level that Josh has established has taken a long time to get there. And so I think in any curriculum we develop, we need to have in the back of our minds the need for ongoing support and long comprehensive training. Andy?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yeah, I just want piggybacking on that, Jennifer, and also on what Dominique said. She just reminded me that we have been supporting self-advocates to, enhance their skills on advocacy through Partners in Policymaking, and that might be a really good pipeline for additional trainers for the, through the Patti Saylor Alliance. People who have experience now and a greater level of comfort speaking up and out about what they want and need to see from law enforcement. And the other, so that's one thing I thought that we could explore with the Alliance is kind of that natural pipeline and how we can be efficient there and connecting people. And the other thing I was thinking about was something that we are embarking on with People on the Go of Maryland, which is to expand partners kind of out to have more of an emphasis on training and empowering, providing training to and empowering self-advocates, more so than family members as we kind of go forward with the initiative in partnership also with the DD Council. So again, just kind of on the horizon, but good opportunities to make sure that there are people who are able to provide these trainings throughout the state.
Thanks, Andy. Greg, did you want to address the resource that you sent me in advance of the meeting?
Sure, I can briefly. The Virginia Department of Education for several years now has developed a curriculum and worked with self-advocates across the state. The curriculum is called I'm Determined. And I know that in one of the former roles that I had prior to coming to Towson, it was sometimes connecting with self-advocates from the Mid-Atlantic area to have them come and speak at engagements in Washington, D.C. And I know that it was nice to be able to reach out to that particular program, knowing that they had gone through a centralized kind of program to learn a little bit more about becoming a self-advocate, participating in workshops throughout the year, but then also having a space in the summer where they would go and learn additional supports. But I think more than a curriculum, and I think this is what's really important here, more than a curriculum, it was being able to get the names out there and to know that these are folks across the state that, there was a centralized space. Everybody was able to go and kind of connect. So this is important work in one facet, and there are so many other facets in education, in community living that we really, and in employment, that we want to make sure that other areas other than just first responders and law enforcement are also aware that there are folks that need to be represented and at the table, and we're not always doing that. So it was, again, that might be a model to consider as well.
Thanks, Greg.
I add one more group. This has really moved ahead incredibly, which is really wonderful. I think there are little pockets around the state, particularly where different provider agencies try to connect to their communities, and it would be really nice for this to influence that. And I think it would sort of add a self-advocacy piece that doesn't exist there completely. And so it would be nice in the next phases to begin to reach out that way. So there's some people who may want some training and not to spend huge amounts of their lives doing this, but could, should really be part of it in other ways.
Thanks, Joanna. I think that speaks to that need to address whatever meaningful involvement that is in the interest of the person with the disability and how he or she wants to participate. Anybody else?
Jen, do you mind if I
I love you too.
As you know, for me, being a self-advocate has changed my life completely. I've been able to get through a lot of tough situations, not just with police, but personally. When I switched jobs, I had to call the insurance company. And I said to them, listen, I have a disability. You're going to have to work with me. So for me, it's changed my life for skills that I need to use for every day. And I mean, I'm telling you, there's so many police officers that I've already taught that recognize me. And that makes me feel good. I mean, the other night I went out with my mom to get dinner the night before Easter, and there was a mother who has a son with a disability. I'm also on the board of directors for the Carroll County ARC, and she recognized me right away, even with the mask on. And you know what she said to me? Thank you, Erica, for everything. And my son is thinking about running for mayor of Westminster in the near future. Will you help him? I said, I'd be more than happy to. To me, that just shows that my work is truly important because we're members of the community. We're the voice.
Thanks, Erica. Tammy?
Thanks, Jennifer. I just wanted to pipe in here and just talk a little bit about People on the Go and some of the things that we've been doing over the years, along with the Saylor Alliance. We've been involved in this since the very beginning as well. And People on the Go uses a training curriculum called Project STIR, which is Steps Towards Independence and Responsibilities. And we've been doing those trainings since 2016 all over the state. And we've developed a number of individuals who have really taken those skills and on to other things like the law enforcement training and various other things around the state. I just hope that we can continue this partnership and really continue to build. There's so much momentum, I think, going on here in the state with building leadership empowerment and individuals who want to be trainers. And that's one of the things that we see through the Project STIR is that you get to see the individuals who really want to take that to the next level and to be trainers. So we're looking to help out any way that we can in helping to support the pool of advocates that really want to be part of first responder training. So, thanks.
Patti, I'm sorry, Tammy. I'm so happy that you chimed in with that, and thank you for that. I ask you to forgive the fact that when I mentioned our partnership with Pathfinders as one of the first steps under the Ethan Saylor Training Alliance, Self-Advocates as Trainers Alliance, I should have said, and did not, that partnership included People on the Go and ARC of Maryland. And so thank you for raising that. And Project STIR is a very strong training curriculum developing self-advocates and self-advocates as leaders. So thank you for saying that, Tammy. It's been a full 6 years, and we've worked with lots of folks, but I don't like to leave anybody as significant as that first huge effort out. Thanks.
Go ahead, Amy.
Something as I listen to everybody talk, the University of Maryland is launching in the fall a college-based program for students with intellectual disabilities, a small pilot. And I would love to be able to incorporate potentially the training of campus police, doing the self-advocacy and then the training of campus police as part of that program. They do take, they're taking University of Maryland courses, but there's always the winter session that is like 3 weeks long that I'm wondering if that might be a time to schedule that and building in some advocacy training there. It just comes to mind as a possibility for bringing that into, it's a huge campus, but there is a whole law enforcement portion that's separate from the Prince George's County Police that I think might be a nice place to start or pilot something. it's just a thought that I'm having as we're starting that program.
That's great. Thank you. And I believe when I met with you, I said that we'd be happy to share the model curriculum for you to utilize.
That would be great. Thank you. Only requested for the campus. Great.
Yes, we can get a list of contact information for everybody on the call. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, and Trish from Pathfinder said that they have a curriculum specific to campus police. That's great. Anybody have any questions or concerns about how the department and the steering committee envision moving forward with this coalition? I will add that you know, the fiscal partnership, the contract is going to be with Special Olympics Maryland. But the product that comes out of this coalition is going to be publicly available and is going to have all coalition partners' names on it. So it will not be specific to, you know, a Special Olympics program. We want this to be as accessible to everybody throughout the state and hopefully throughout the country.
Jen, is there going to be an agreement to be a member of the coalition, or what do you need from each of our organizations or agencies?
That's a good question. I don't think that there'll be a need for like an MOU or anything official. I think it's just a matter of a commitment. And I think that there needs to be, and we need to figure this out with Special Olympics, a mechanism with which Special Olympics compensates the self-advocates for their time. And I know that the partners are going to be bringing in self-advocates that they work with. So that might require paperwork, administrative stuff from a Special Olympics and self-advocate or partner perspective, but I don't think that MDOD is going to require anything official other than, you know, maybe just an acknowledgement and a commitment in an email form or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jennifer, may I ask a question, please? This is Dominique Pam. So in terms of next steps from today, specifically for Dominique, is there, what are the next steps? I've been in and out of the meeting, so I apologize if you said that and I did miss it.
No, I did not. I guess from a self-advocate perspective, I don't think that there is anything that we will need from you at the time. There's going to be a lot of meetings and correspondence outside after this meeting in preparation of getting a contract established. And then I imagine that we will have a launch of the coalition officially with committed partners, and we will carve out you know, something specifically for the self-advocates for that. But I won't have anything for you to do, Dominique, until we establish that contract with Special Olympics Maryland. And we're looking at having a kickoff before June 30th, but we're looking at an official contract start date of July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, can I say something?
Yes, please do. Yeah,
well, we have a stand-up desk, and Erin is taking a break from that. She's back in the background there, but and I may have waited too long because I think Andy Culp had to leave. But this is a really stellar group of people, and I wanted to single out and say I was so happy to see Andy and the ARC of Maryland involved in this, because we were involved with the ARC Maryland. I was on the board of directors for a number of years under Christy Marchand, and when Andy took over, I was so happy to see her continue the legacy of leadership that the ARC of Maryland is known for. So I'm really happy to see her intimately involved with this. Also, I'm here, Brent Debnan and I are on a new advisory group for the city of Laurel. And Brent couldn't make it, so Jennifer was nice enough to extend an invitation to Aaron and I. It's Aaron and I that are on that advisory group. And of course, when I bring this back to the group, all this information, the question is, how do we get trainings for the Laurel Police Department? You know, how do we begin that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've really relied on kind of cold calling and getting leads from Bob Wagner at the Police and Correctional Training Commission. We're trying to move the needle on that without making it mandatory. So I'm happy to talk offline about that.
Okay, yeah, because Laurel is one of those unique municipalities like Bowie that is kind of it has its own authority, its own police department, and so I don't know if we can do something independently or if it's bound by the PCTC guidelines or what. So yeah, I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I can certainly give you 18 minutes back to your day. I wanted to thank everybody and for their time, for their efforts, continued efforts, for bearing with me in my haste to get this meeting scheduled. Can I leave it out to Terry and Erica for final remarks and wrapping up?
Absolutely. Terry, do you want to go ahead first?
Well, sure. Just want to say thanks for everyone for listening and for offering your comments. We really look forward to working with Special Olympics Maryland and figuring out how to best collect the input from this coalition and have it inform the curriculum. And then of course, to get ideas on how to fan out and make sure that the circles we talked about, the other areas where training is needed beyond law enforcement could be effectively approached. So thanks to everyone. We will look forward to convening again. This is just a really dynamic group. I have enjoyed scanning the list of everyone who's on the call and appreciating the diversity of perspective that we have. And that's just awesome. So thanks very much. And we will be in touch. Erica?
Thank you everyone for attending today. This is going to be an incredible journey. It has been for the very beginning. So thank you for everyone who's included me. Thank you, Patti. And thank you to all my fellow self-advocates who attended, because remember, we are the voice. Can't wait to see everybody very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much for having us. This has been
Okay, and happy birthday again to Andy, who's not with us anymore, and Patrick, happy birthday this week.
Yes. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Patrick.
Thank you.
Everybody take good care.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, guys.